Composition is the first word on the best artist lips when they start an image. But what is composition? It's basically the layout of elements and a visual vocabulary that leads your eyes around an image and make it interesting. It's the first crucial step in making your image interesting from the get-go. No detail, fancy colors, lighting, or action will substitute the composition. Even though composition theory has rules that have been used for hundreds of years, you can always find new and interesting ways to apply them to your composition. Try to think outside of the box. I'm going to take you through a quick guide to composition and see where it leads us and what we discover along the way. The ancient Greeks used the golden rectangle that had defined proportions. The golden rectangle is a rectangle that has sides which are approximately at a ratio 1 to 1.618. By using this proportion, you get very balanced and pleasing composition with a strong focal point. The defined proportions appear in many life forms, including humans. Derived from the golden rectangle is the rules of thirds, which was adapted to cope with a wider range of aspect ratios. By dividing your frame into 3 equal parts from each side, you create 4 points where the lines intersect each other. For example, the image on the canvas used the principles of the rule of thirds by having the converging lines create focal points. Now, I'm going to share how to make composition grid inside Clip Studio Paint. The rule of thirds is usually talked about in photography, but it's really important in art, design, and any visual medium. Divide your canvas into thirds horizontally and vertically. Points of interest should lie on the lines and intersection points. When composing a piece, think critically about where you want to draw the viewer's attention. Align the parts you want to highlight with the intersection on your canvas. These are areas the eye is naturally drawn to. This works for canvases of any dimension, but when dealing with elongate canvases, feel free to switch the ratio to better suit your vision. Simple compositions can sometimes be the most effective. Sometimes, less is more. For example, you can use perspective to lead the viewer into the picture and directly to your focal point. Use whatever objects you have in your scene to focus on detailed image. My painting will be focused on the cowboy and his horse near the middle of canvas. So, I use the stone arc to guide the viewer's eye. I took longer time to make the shapes of horse silhouette as well as the cowboys with bonfire in between them because they are the main focal points of the entire image. To make a dynamic bonfire flame, I create a new layer, then directly sketch it with taper pen. After done, I use blend fingertip with large brush size to make it look somehow moving. The sparks of fire can be drawn with simple airbrush droplet. At this point, quick and effective composition technique is basically having your image layout follow certain shapes, even strokes, a bit of textures, but no need to overwhelm it. And that's it! I made this painting around 25 minutes without the speed up process by 8 times. It's a weird way to look at a still illustration that will never move like animation, but this way of thinking about them has always been more understandable to me than the art textbook version might. So, with that in mind, that's how I approach a full illustration usually. I tend to use foreground elements sparingly, depending on where my subject is. I try to keep lighting in mind throughout the process. Depending on how you use it, the same piece can look vastly different with different lighting. When you've done thumbnail image preparation, we are now ready to blocking in. We'll do is roughly lay the colors down on the canvas in blocks. The best brushes to use for this are the pen brushes such as taper pen and even edges texture pen or rounded ones such as turnip, mapping or G-pen, either smooth or textures with various size. Never blocking your paint with so many layers. When working on the base of your painting, whether with a landscape or other scene, there's no need to add a new layer, but if you feel more comfortable with it, so the choice is yours. But I suggest to merge it down to one layer only. Why am I urge you to not using more layers for every single object in your painting? This often ends up looking very rigid, not dynamically for overlapping nor interesting, because the different objects don't really interact with each others. Something to consider when you start blocking in your painting is where the light will be coming from, and perhaps even whether there will be a second or third light source. But always remember that values will be on top of everything else.